Hey everyone, welcome to the Rochford Files, and this is your host, Andrew Rochford, coming to you live from the Mile Highland City. And this is a happy Mother's Day to all the mothers that are out there today. Hopefully it's a nice Sunday wherever you are in the world, as we've got to get more into the evolving coverage when it comes to this Roe versus Wade. In addition to that, point out where liberals stand on stuff like civility policing, the Democrats' hypocrisy when it comes to the candidates they're putting their backing behind. So that's really a couple of the main themes for tonight's show. As coming up on Tuesday, it's the first year anniversary of the channel. So I'm going to try to get at least a couple people on that show with me. It's going to be a pretty chill stream. So don't expect to see like some serious commentary. That'll be more of a chill and laid back one. And this stream is live on YouTube and Twitch. So please do your part to like, share, subscribe, and help make sure this stream gets spread out. Give it a chance to get more viewers, more eyeballs, maybe even a active new chatter can get in this. But with that being said, let's get on with tonight's show and start off with some Clarence Thomas. So I'm just going to mainly go through the few quotes of his that are in here. Justice Clarence Thomas, following the leak of a draft majority opinion overturning Roe v. Wade, said Friday that government institutions shouldn't be bullied into delivering what some see as the preferred outcome. The events of earlier this week is one symptom of that, Thomas said. He added, "You cannot have a free society without stable institutions." His comments came before an audience of mostly judges and lawyers at the 11th Circuit Judicial Conference in Atlanta. Chief Justice John Roberts had addressed the same conference, calling the leak absolutely appalling. Thomas's comments echo a speech from last fall where the justice decried attempts to manipulate institutions. Back then, he appeared to be nodding to progressive attempts to add more members to the Supreme Court to dilute the conservative majority. "I think we should be careful destroying our institutions because they don't give us what we want," he said at the time. On Friday, Thomas reiterated that he believes Supreme Court justices are obligated to take a fresh look at established precedent and shouldn't be bound by the judicial doctrine called stare decisis, the legal principle translated as stand by which has been decided, and is meant to reinforce stability in the law. That right there just means that they only wanted to stand by stuff that is in their best interest. But anything that they feel is not in their best interest, that's the type of shit that they're going to look into changing. And it potentially starts with this Roe versus Wade. I know the next thing that they think is on the horizon will be the possibly gay marriage. Thomas has been a long critic of the doctrine. We use stare decisis as a mantra when we don't want to think. No, it's a mantra when it's actually something that would be for the greater good of people in the United States, but it's not good for the ruling class, the wealthy, the elite, the corporations. That's when the stare decisis stays in place. But you don't like lower courts. The Supreme Court is the end of the line. If the justices don't look at it, who does, he asked. And that's the main gist of what Thomas said on that speech that got reported on Friday. So when you hear those quotes from mainly Thomas, but a bit of John Roberts, you know that they're aware of the fact that the millennials like myself and Gen Z, we're the ones who are gonna sit back and accept worsening conditions of society. And that's why they like the boomer and Gen Xers so much, because those are the two generations who conditionally accepted what the worsening conditions, specifically when you look back at post FDR. Hey, WCSN, good to see you tonight. It's a nice, breezy day here in Denver. And what they've come to realize from after two campaigns of Bernie Sanders getting fucked over by the establishment, although he didn't help those matters by rolling over both times, is the fact that they know that there's a new generation of people who are already breaking through the illusion of this two-party system. And they're not even going to have to vote for Democrats to see through it. I mean, it takes most people 2 or 3 times to figure it out, but they're learning from a lot of people in independent media about what the meaning of your vote really entails. And even they may even get it from those fake lefties who somehow still want them to only conditionally attempt to put in progressives. And yes, I do think that even people who watch like TYT, Hassan Piker, Sam Cedar, Kristol Ball, Kyle Kulinski, that you're capable, even if you're a frequent watcher, you're still maybe able to frequently not accept everything that they're telling you and not accept it for what it is. But back to this point. And I think 2020 gave them a bit of a preview of how people out there do not want to accept uh, shitty institutions drastically trying to ruin their lives in the process. And it's been a slow, steady battle. And we see the frustration of Democrats who just go along with the right. And they're just really uh, going along for the right of fascism, only slightly slower. And that's one of the big things that the liberal blue check elite struggle with, because now you're finally starting to see liberals get back to being divided on the civility policing discourse. You know, during that 2020, they started off being more supportive of Black Lives Matter, but then once they could shift the focus into the looting and rioting and and not on the police violence, that's what mainstream media did to get people to be more critical, but in a counterproductive way. While if you view the protests through the lens of social media, then you got a much different view of it. Happy Mother's Day to everyone. Thanks for the message, Kelly. And now that we're about to get into a big time ratio as war criminal scum, Bill Kristol had something to say about protesting earlier this morning. Please don't protest at people's homes. Please don't intrude on people attending their houses of worship. So, where's that same type of respect for Palestinians? Especially since war criminals like Bill Kristol support Israeli attacking Palestinians in their places of worship. Organize politically. Be civically. And that last part really just felt like fascist bleeding Billy Boy making up a word. And when you go through these quotes, you'll see that it's just not all lefties like us who are going in on him. Let me see how far I have to scroll to find a actual liberal who. Oh, this may classify if you're an MSNBC writer. She pointed out the class solidarity around rich people there. Another lefty account. But I know that much earlier this afternoon, there were a lot more of the very familiar liberal faces on this quote tweet ratio, including a lot that have the blue and yellow flags in their display name. Yes, that's right, Kelly. Do people remember what he was doing a couple weeks ago in New York? Yes, he was speaking at a rally for Nazis in Ukraine. And if I remember correctly, there were Azov chants at that event. So this man has figured out a way to be wrong every so often. Because once again, people like them, anyone to your right of this left right here, although that came off as a bit of a tongue twister, but the point is that they're always going to come up with a way to disapprove of how protest is done. You had actual conservatives do that. They're the ones that are often doing that with these protests. But now, when there's class interest involved, you got liberals getting in the mix. And in fact, y'all remember last year when Kristen Cinema was starting to get more people try to apply this type of pressure to her? But no, there were a shit ton of liberals getting mad because they wouldn't be quiet for her while she went into the restroom. Yet, there were only women who went in to that restroom to continue questioning her from a healthy distance away and not anywhere close enough to where it became up to the point where you can argue her actual privacy got infringed. Are enough of you liberals over the civility policing that many of you agreed with and went along with last year at that time? Because they get to be comfortable. This shit doesn't affect them whenever their policies enact violence, like women not being able to have their choice, or when they pushed mandates that pretty much, in certain conditions, hurt other people's ability to exist in society. And you're also yes, I let me check on that for you. Uh Kelly, I think it could be this year, but it could be uh 2024 as well. Yeah, it's 2024, Kelly. But I the likely opponent is supposed to be Ruben Gallego. He's being branded as a progressive right now, even though there's probably a good chance that he's not even going to live up to that label, even in the way that, like, the Squad used to, or several others. All right, that got me a bit sidetracked off of the point that I was getting into, and that is the fact that, are enough of you liberals really ready to start making these people uncomfortable to be out in public when they make them have to listen to dissent from their homes when they're shopping for groceries, when they decide to go out to eat, even though that was also too much for liberals. Some liberals, when it happened to a couple Republicans in the during the Trump presidency, including the former press secretary Sarah Huckabee, when she was at a restaurant. Even though some liberals were on the right side of the divide right there, not feeling too uncomfortable then. But they really should not be able to be comfortable in society as long as they continue to make things worse for us. But we also need liberals to start to get a sense of solidarity. We know if this is finally the straw that finally gets you to break out of the dissonance of the Democratic Party, this whole red game, blue game, then I'm glad. But also, got to come to the realization that you're going to need to show that same type of solidarity when it comes for other forms of action. Like Black Lives Matter could have been a much different outcome if we had much more, if we didn't have so many liberals check out and go to brunch the moment that they knew Joe Biden won the election. Like if we had more of those liberals on the page of things not really changing much with him as president, then we'd still have some form of people who wouldn't have ever stopped being out on the streets. I know that small factions did try to make it happen. I know it did in Denver after it was announced for Biden, but they just got smeared as anarchist when this is such a bad government that just being against the current system labels you as an anarchist when you just want something to be much better and work in a way that actually helps people and not just 1%. Nice one. Nice. WCN with Dems should be slightly more honest and just change the name to fascists only. Way more truthful. Democrats are like the baby face in wrestling, but not the cool, edgy type of baby face like a Stone Cold Steve Austin. They're just like the complete cookie cutter one. The, like if they saw that their opponent got beat up, knocked out by outside interference when the referee wasn't looking, they would literally just stand there and wait for them to get up just because that's how dumbly principled they are with the idea of playing fair. While there's a big frustrated group of people who just want you to take wins however you can get them. We know that there's going to be a bit of messiness along the way. Oh, yeah, $1 Million Man. One of the top heels. Money, 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 money. I mean, it's an understanding that as we try to apply pressure on politicians wherever they go in public, that there's going to be violence that happens whether we want it to or not. But the thing is, it's just like the 3% of violence that took place during the George Floyd protest. It's not supposed to be a smear you go along with that's counterproductive to the goal. especially when it's clear that the state has a monopoly on violence. So the, the good way to go into debunking that is by making sure you stay focused on there and don't take the bait, because we do know that the state will be next if we ever did become committed in making sure that we apply pressure to political figures who are actively sabotaging anything that could help people along the way. But there was a bit of action that took place at Justice Kavanaugh's home over the weekend.
We will not go back. 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 We will not go back.
Exactly, Kelly. That's one of the things that is problematic about some people trying to come to the defense of these uh, figures like Justice Kavanaugh, Supreme Court, is the fact that you're in a position where you're going to have to deal with the scrutiny of whichever decision you make, especially when you have an overwhelming, when you do it against the wishes of the overwhelming majority. Yeah, that's right. WCSN once again. And one of the favorite arguments is their family. They're not the ones responsible for it, but they are. But that's not something that you can concern troll over as a reason to not take this type of action. While you can't just assume that everyone in every single family agrees with it, but there are some that do go support it and go along with it, but it's just not uh it's just a weak deflection as a justification to not do anything, because we see how easy it is for these people to just not go to the government institutions like the Supreme Court, the state capitol, wherever their office is located. It is so damn easy for them to just stay away and not go. And by the way, I saw one of the related tweets that it was even one of Justice Kavanaugh's neighbors who organized that. So if you concern troll for neighbors, you can't just assume that all the neighbors are going to be upset about it either. You know that there's going to be someone who wishes to get involved in that. And that's so I just wonder what this is going to lead to, because every politician absolutely deserves to feel that type of pressure. And I even say that knowing that even the ones who are furthest away from the left deserve the same type of pressure applied equally, like a blanket across the board. everyone should have to answer for the actions and decisions they take to actively continue to worsen the conditions of society today, especially as we could be in for ugly food shortages, rolling blackouts over the United States decision to make tensions worse in this in assisting Ukraine with this proxy war against Russia. There's not a lot of people who are talking about it that way, and the voices who do, like Gonzalo Lira, Caleb Maupin, is also brought up the concerns of food shortages, the rolling blackouts that could be coming up in these next few months. And hey, just maybe then you'll see people get angry enough at their government, even though this moment could be a precursor. That's what we would like to see, Kelly. We just need way more people to get on that page, because my concern is after a few days, a couple weeks, liberals will go back to their brunch. However, if they're actually serious about this, they may stay. We may have a chance to get them to be more focused. So I saw that the Lincoln Project was trending on Twitter earlier today for a couple of different reasons. So I'm just going to go through it to point out a couple of different reasons that the Lincoln Log Project got in the trend. One of them was pretty much a petty distraction type thing, and the other one is in relation to how they helped get Justice Alito in the Supreme Court. So I'm going to reload this, see if it gets some of the top tweets has changed over the past few hours. Hey, let's just start with the one that's on topic. So, gonna zoom this in a bit, make it a bit easier for the peeps to read if I can. Here's their statement. If the draft decision circulating by Justice Alito is the final decision, it will be yet a long series of roll back the clock efforts by right-wing extremists, said by guys who used to be right-wing extremists, but only slightly less right-wing extreme. Every Supreme Court justice testified Roe versus Wade was settled law. Apparently that was not true. Not by anyone, even so-called liberals who always fear-mongered over the possibility of this happening. The decision will take America back to a dark period wherein states will have the power to impose the power to stay over even survivors and victims of rape and incest. The Alito decision should be seen in a context of a broad authoritarian movement. Yet we support blue authoritarianism that has become the majority of the Republican Party. Their goal is to remove individual rights and freedoms that are cornerstones of modern civil society. But hey, we still support the other party who likes to do it as well. The Trump-led autocrats are banning books, attacking LGBTQ Americans, attacking voting rights to make it more difficult for those who are non-white and at the lower economic spectrum to vote. But we support a party that likes to attack voting access for third parties and actively make it harder for progressive candidates to beat our blue dogs in primaries and elections. This will not stop unless we stop it. Complacency is the surest path to defeat. While in the same breath, we got a lot of those liberals like Billy Kristol who want us to be complacent as well. The Lincoln Project is joining forces with all Americans to fight the threat of authoritarianism. Modern democracies die today in violent coups, but the Democrat Party here supports coups in socialist countries all over the world. They die at the ballot box and in the courtroom. Not the way I interpreted history. They've only saw defeat when people got together in mass mobilization of direct action. We will fight for democracy day and night, but we don't consider democracy socialism. We only consider it capitalism. There are more of us than there are of them. We will win, but only if you listen to the right people who don't tell you to engage in bullshit cookie cutter civility. The Lincoln Project is a leading pro-democracy organization in the United States, dedicated to preservation and protection and defense of democracy. Weird, I just thought that you were a leader of a kinder form of fascism, like the one that we are seeing, living, experiencing now under the Biden administration. I'm going to hide the screen for a moment while I find the other part that caused the Lincoln Project uh, to get more momentum in trending today. The one that is more of a bullshit distraction. And this one is related to Steve Schmidt. And it's related to. I'm not going to take the time to find that exactly in visual evidence, but the more distraction part was one of the people in the Lincoln Project, Steve Schmidt, was apparently not happy with the Republican Party's direction in 2008 when John McCain decided to make Sarah Palin his VP because they felt like Republicans were throwing that election to Barack Obama. Yes, I know that it's really not kinder, but that's just the way that it's really branded, Kelly. And Joe Biden did lie to us as well when he said nothing would fundamentally change. I mean, for those shareholders and the wealthy people who pull the lobbyists, nothing really changed for them, but it actually did get worse for us. But the reason why it's a distraction is they want you to be dwelling on something in the past that really isn't worth all that much. Taking the time to get into, especially if you are someone who is supposed to be, even if you're a liberal who calls himself left, but it truly isn't left. It is really just a waste of time to put energy into. Just like how most of the time showing the right isn't very productive use of hmm, left media energy, as we should really be focused on the people who actually obstruct the left more. And that is clearly liberals, because, for one, Republicans are not popular enough to be the ones that we have to focus on first. The system may be slanted in favor of them, but in terms of mass numbers, they aren't the ones in our way. Especially when Democrats can are easy get the popular vote, whether they win or lose or not. They're the real obstacle to progress here. And the liberals who are going to put their energy into uh, that story are the ones who still have that belief molded into their brain that, what about Republicans? But now we're going to get into the hypocrisy that top Democratic leadership has over this Roe versus Wade, and the way that they're going about it in this when it comes to helping in upcoming elections that their party has. And this is in relation to uh, the House Representative Henry Cuellar. Nevertheless, Pelosi, Hoyer, and Clyburn continue to support Cuellar's campaign. None of the three responded to the Daily Caller's request for comment about their endorsements. But after this, I do have a future comment from Jim Clyburn on his. Pelosi and Hoyer emphasize Cuellar's long career in Congress when discussing their support for him. Cuellar held multiple elected offices in Texas before entering the House in 2005. I support my incumbents, Pelosi said in March. I support every one of them from right to left. That is what I do. And that right there is an example of why elected progressives are majorly unserious about gaining power within the Democratic Party. Because, as Compton J, Revolutionary Backout Network says, if it doesn't matter if you don't take corporate money, if your boss takes corporate money, and just like in this instance, it doesn't matter if you say you won't support incumbents, but if you follow your boss's orders and only support incumbents, then what do you expect to happen? His efforts have helped South Texas families build back better from the pandemic. His work passing middle class tax cuts, affordable health care, and access to education for working families that has helped contribute to the gain of almost 500,000 jobs in Texas alone. Once again, are we really gaining any jobs when we still aren't feeling recovered even to 2020 standards. An argument could be made that we never fully recovered from the 2007 recession. Clyburn is scheduled to campaign with Cuellar Wednesday in San Antonio. As for that part, I'm not sure if that happened this past Wednesday or that's happening this upcoming Wednesday. Nothing will fundamentally change, the famous quote of Joe Biden. We were on a downward trajectory before he became president in chief, and the downward trajectory / help from Dems continues. And that's all that some of these people really want to do by misguiding us, whether it's by people who tell us to only protest in the safest of manners that makes no one uncomfortable, or those who try to slow down our progress by telling us the only way we can ever get anything done is by going through reforming the Democratic Party. When we have enough evidence by now that says that there is no reforming the Democratic Party. With friends like Democrat, no one wonder when is Ukraine gate going to pop up. That would be hilarious though. The only way that Ukraine gate is going to pop up is if we had a shocking midterm where we actually had Democrats gain make a smallest of gains in House and Senate seats. And if the Democrats just broke even, that'd be considered a massive win for them in the midterms. And just only losing one, yeah, or if the Senate stood even and they only lost like one or two House seats, even that would be considered a big win for them, considering how much of a massive disappointment that they have been. And it's still slightly possible because they used the Black Lives Matter momentum and energy to help them get the type of win that they did get in the 2020 election, even while coming out against some of the things and campaigns that the small group of activists demanded for. Let's now go to the Jim Clyburn quote next. And thanks to Gaijin Girl 2004 for blasting this quote. Wow, Jim Clyburn is utterly rancid and an enemy of women's human rights. Here's his justification for endorsing Cuellar indirectly, but he basically called women who don't want to be used as broadmares sophomoric. And this is the same guy who has tried to co-opt the progressive label. We have a Big Tent party, and if we're going to be a Big Tent party, we've got to be a Big Tent party. Clyburn told reporters after an evening rally and an outdoor barbecue drill, I don't believe we ought to have a litmus test in the Democratic Party. I think we have to bring as many people into the party as we possibly can. This whole notion that you gotta agree with everybody on everything is pretty sophomoric to me, Clyburn added. House Democrats are going to lose big time. The House, the Senate, and the presidency. Then we spend 4 years bitching about Republicans. It will all switch back to as it has been doing for decades. Yeah, that's where I still am on what's going to happen. But we still know that there's still a small, they still got one curveball that they could exhaust. But it's also probably on a obvious curveball count, which means that the Republicans know that they're getting a pretty grooved pitch that they can hit a grand slam on. But before I go into this idea of how Democrats have been such a anti-purity test that it's been so problematic. I mean, I know that there's past articles done by Brianna Joy Gray that have talked about the problem with how Democrats have no purity test whatsoever, while many of the people on the left who uh, refuse to vote for Democrats until they get at least a single thing in order to get their vote. And I used to be inclined to think that way. But now I'm to the point where even if they tell us that they're going to do something that's more progressive, just like one of Bernie Sanders' campaign promises, if they decide to run on that in an election that they actually have a chance to win, and this also, the condition here needs to be that we need the at least the 5% votes going to parties to the left of the Democrats. But the problem is they still need to win by an uncomfortable margin in order to follow through on that. Because if they get most of those people back to voting for them, then they're just going to abandon it once they get into office, because we saw that there was a big amount of people who voted 22% voted uh, against in that 92 election, the second Herbert Walker Bush. But almost all those people fell right back in line for Bill Clinton. And look where that got us. Dems have even lost their abortion tool. Dems haven't offered nothing. Even if they did offer something, isn't their step one to find reasons not to get anything done? Yeah, that's why I say that it's not just as simple as being able to withhold your vote for one election, because it may even take multiple elections of withholding your vote while hoping that they still find a way to win in the process. There's so many uh, hoops to cross through in order for even that idea to work. And I know that's something that Jimmy Dore says a lot, but the idea of it following through has so many conditions that also need to work along with it. Yeah, that's it right there. But they've been doing this for a long ass time. Though we got people who just want to get one major thing the for them to be given the reason to earn their vote. But then you got these people who have no purity test whatsoever. They'll That's why they only try to reach out to the right. As Lawrence O'Donnell said, they don't have to do anything for the left to get their vote because people have not proven that they're capable of withholding their vote for the Democratic Party. But now they're going into some sick smear tactics on Jessica Cisneros, the progressive opponent of Henry Cuellar. Thanks to Professor Anthony Zinkis for compiling these screenshots. Liberals sink to slut shaming pro choice Jessica Cisneros because of an alleged affair in order to elevate anti choice and anti woman Representative Henry Cuellar. What a desperate misogynistic group of losers. Liberals embrace anti abortion rights and anti women candidates. No better than MAGA. And that's why so many of us call these people blue MAGA. And here's one of these tweets, which included Ed Markey in the reply. Can you ask the anti-democratic fraud you're endorsing if she ended her nasty affair with her teacher who's been grooming her for years? Definitely know how to pick 'em, Ed. Henry will win, and I'm sure Jessica will be the next Nina Turner. And this sock puppet account, don't forget her 10-year affair. Then a good definition added in. Slut shaming is the practice of criticizing people, especially women and girls, who are perceived to violate expectations of behavior and appearance regarding issues to sexuality. And that's definitely one of the important things that I personally would like to state is I'm very much against the slut shaming, especially the gender double standard that gets applied with it, and which disproportionately gets applied towards women. And don't forget, and that's also important to also challenge. But it's not just men who do this. There's also a lot of slut shaming that takes place by women, especially women who prop up misogynistic arguments with the misogyny that they have had internalized. And that's specifically uh, to the point of dress shaming women who don't uh, choose to dress in a conservative way, or they like to do the shaming of being anti-sex worker. So they'll go. So with these blue maggots, they'll always sink as low as possible to protect the establishment blue dogs whenever it's to their best interest. Because if it was the Henry Cuellar who had the affair with his high school teacher, they would be covering up, deflecting, ignoring, the argument or trying to say some type of BS argument like boys will be boys. That's the type of thing they would be doing if the tables were flipped. And even though many of us are down on the idea of electoralism, this is where it gets complicated because we shouldn't be silent on letting people like that get away with smears that are just sick and malicious, even though the person that it's being applied to probably is only going to end up capitulating to the system once they make it in, because we saw with Tara Reid how they smeared her when she tried to uh, go bring her attention to her case with Joe Biden, and they made irrelevant deflections that just weren't true, and they just ignored her. And that would be the type of thing that they would be ready to do for him if the tables were switched and even if Jessica had a clean past, it still wouldn't matter because when it comes to the club, they're always going to find a way to protect their own and do anything possible to defame those who aren't part of the club. And even with that being said, even if people that they don't want to get into the club break through, they're going to find a way to break you down and make you just like everyone else over time. We saw Jamal Bowman just pretty much assimilate into that club in just a couple of days because the illusion of being a fighter is much easier to see through when you're on the party with the power and you're not challenging the people there who are sabotaging any type of progress that could be made. And that's where the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party comes into play, showing you how unserious they are about actually trying to protect Roe versus Wade and get to a potential codifying of it as well, because they are not going to get that supermajority. That is a pipe dream. That supermajority that Barack Obama went into office with, the same one that he said that codifying Roe versus Wade wasn't a top priority, I doubt that we're going to see that again in our lifetime. Because this system is designed to for both parties to take turns trading off slim majorities. Except the difference is you got a ton of Democrats who are willing to vote along with Republicans. So that gives liberals the false illusion that they can just vote their way to a higher majority when they haven't come to the realization that the system is extremely rigged against it. And we got people, so-called lefties, who are still trying to shit on the idea of doing anything through a third party. Yet tell me that trying to help get a supermajority isn't much less harder of a pipe dream at this point than trying to successfully use a third party to attempt to pull the Democrats back toward the left. To me, they're pretty relatively equal in difficulty. I'm failing to see the separation of difference. WCSN. Remember the guy who blew up his truck in front of the building the house stored voting machines? Where did his social media reveal? Oh, yeah, I know that the right had this big story about the 200 randoms. I think that was the name of it. The Yeah, I think that was the name of it. This big story that blew up on the right with the 200 randoms. Pretty much just uh, meaningless consent for the maggots who are still fixated on the fact that the election got stole for them. When at this point, these elections are pretty pointless to get caught up in like that because this system is fucked and we should be trying to do shit outside of the system. And that's what's also frustrating about the left is the fact that you got a lot of righties who are overly fixated on electoral politics, which means we should be crushing the fuck out of them in direct action. But no. That's the problem with people like Hassan Piker, Sam Cedar, TYT. They're holding them back from actually trying to uh, take real meaningful action, building up our own mutual aid networks to not be reliant on electoralism. And that's what the frustrating part is, because a lot of the right is very complacent with the way electoralism is because of the way that the Overton window is so shifted in their favor. So that's created a complacency on their part to where they're not really, they don't feel the need to get out and protest that much in comparison to the amount of mobilization that the left should be taking at the moment. So I do. So when I see the parallels of what right wing people are focused on, which is mainly culture wars, some electoralism, their own conspiracy theories, but we can't get enough people on the left to break through their obsession with trying to reform the Democratic Party. The advantage is right there for the taking. The right isn't a as much of a mobile opposition as some people would like to think it is. And the left is a embarrassingly bad mobilization at times. And while the left does get involved in playing the other side of the culture war, at the same time, Well, and it also hurts the left worse when we fail to walk and chew gum and have the capability of focusing on multiple issues at the same time. Because when you look at the right, I think they're the ones that are actually very susceptible to getting distracted on a lot of the wrong BS that makes them susceptible to the left capitalizing on something. A lot like that story that came out from the Lincoln Project related to the 2008 election. That's the type of shit that takes up a lot of energy in their brains. One last thing related to the way that they're trying to uh, make things conditions worse in terms of safe sex. Where is it? Oh, right here. Uh, Alex Peter collected some snapshots here. Yesterday, Mitch McConnell said it's national abortion ban possible. Breaking, Arizona GOP Senate candidate calls for condoms to be banned in all states. Marsha Blackburn, U.S. Senator, has proposed a plan wherein birth control should only be legal for married couples. This is kind of the part where it does get more culture warish, where it blurs the lines of it, because I do believe that human rights issues shouldn't be branded as culture war, but at the same time, uh, wedges get created the same exact way. And this right here is what happens when you got evangelical Christians who want to make their religion the rule. They only want people to have sex only for procreation. They're the fact that they want to force their beliefs onto people who do like to have sex safely in a recreational manner. And that's where they uh, can really get you on a big divide right there, because conservatives aren't really, they're pretty vanilla in terms of uh, their sexual feelings. At least the evangelical Christian types. And there's still plenty of conservatives out there who do believe in pro-choice. We, I think there's a fallacy in believing that all Republican voters are anti-choice, just like the fallacy of believing that if you vote Republican, that you don't want a form of universal health care starting with Medicare for all, or that you don't believe in living wages, or that you don't want legal weed, or even if you're the small amount Republican who has actually gotten has a good understanding of defund the police from the right, because if you do get it, it's because you don't want police to tread on you either, and also the fact that having bigger police goes against your belief of bigger government. Hey, Uncle Warren, what's up? Good to see you here. But overall, that's how sick that this country is. But the sad part is, as this is the main thing with the coverage as of late, you can't count on Democrats to truly fight these monsters. So, Betty Milder shared a pretty dumb meme over the weekend in relations to the Roe versus Wade. So I gotta pick that apart a bit real quick. And this is just based on scenes from movies. They want this. Pretty much. I'm not sure what movie this is from. If someone could tell me, I would appreciate this. Instead, they're going to get this. Not sure what that movie is. I know that's Black Panther, Mulan, and Wonder Woman. So, of course, they're going to. It's obvious that you're going to use some easy Hollywood style meme. But let's connect this to real life for a second, shall we? I know that a lot of the left is not going to want to join forces with a Israeli defense fighter because the current Wonder Woman Gal Gadot was a Israeli defense fighter, and I know and she's an imperialist. So just going off of Nick Cruz's purity test of the Revolutionary Blackout Network, be an anti-capitalist and anti-imperialist. That's the small gate that you have to get through in order to be in a coalition, and I am in agreement with that principle. So when you look at this is just overall very capitalist mindset when it comes to the whole idea of a fairy tale type of fight that Hollywood celebrities hope that this Roe versus Wade issue becomes, when in reality we know that this shit's going to be more messy and complicated than that. I don't blame you. I mean, in the first few episodes of the show that I started off last year, I did make it a point to try to go in on Gal Gadot to the best of my knowledge. Once that came out that she used to be part of the IDF, extremely pro-Israel, and we know that most of Hollywood is pretty pro-Israel. Although it was good, the best moment of the pro-Palestine celebrities was Seth Rogen calling Eve Barlow Eve Fartlow. And how people still continue to ratio her by calling her Fartlow. Oh, but she's honestly the most insufferable Zionist among any of them. Nice correction, WCSN. But have you noticed that uh, Unholy Rome of Revolutionary Blackout Network has started to be put out more banger tweets as of late? Starting with this one from some random restaurant in Dallas. Oh, look at that! We're carrying signs. Your initials are close to the call numbers for WCNS Chicago. I'm sure of it, Kelly. But if there's one thing that you'll learn about me is I haven't seen a lot of movies. So if you get in a conversation with me and try to ask about the types of movies that I've seen or not seen, I think you're going to be pretty surprised at all the movies I haven't seen. Oh, oh, okay. You switched up the letters a bit, Warren. But yeah, now we're going to get into that Rome video that he posted on that restaurant in Dallas, putting a charge in the bill. So why this video is of interest to me is my mom was a waitress for over 30 years of her life. And that's in addition to having a union working father. I had a mom that was a waitress, and that's how the two incomes that supported a me and my five other siblings growing up.
Bro, how we going out to eat, trying to have us a nice little brunch? And well, okay, we did get a mimosa. We got some morning buns. We had some fried chicken biscuits and some chicken and waffle and a Topo Chico, a mother and child reunion. But I don't remember this. What's this? How she just charged us $1 for Ukraine? Ukraine ain't never sent me no dollar without asking me. Haiti you ever took $1 in the name of Haiti? Just without asking people, just go ahead and add it. Why I owe Ukraine $1? I ain't agree to this. Bro, how we going?
Ah, yeah, I hope that couple is up to the bullshit that is going on with Ukraine, man, because we know that money, the 36 billion and counting, is going to support Nazis, namely the Azov Battalion, as they fight a proxy war in against Russia. And I would be extremely livid about that. And I would be making a aggressive demand to get that dollar off of my bill. And I know, even though my mom, pro waiter, would absolutely be doing the same thing when it comes to a charge that she didn't agree with on her bill. And that is absurd that restaurants would just automatically charge you $1 right off the bat for Ukraine without asking you, because they absolutely should be. Because what I want my dollar to go to would be to help Palestinians, Yemens, Libyans, so many other countries. How about those 24 million people starving in Afghanistan that even though you supposedly pulled your boots off the ground, you're still having sanctions in place that are causing the hurt of those people in Afghanistan. Yes, I would agree with that in principle, Kelly. But we do know that most major charities are scams, and the percentage of money that actually goes to those causes is really sad. I mean, after I remember WWE started to work with the Susan G. Komen Foundation. So during October, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and you start to see a lot of the wrestlers wear pink in their ring attire. But then it was sad learning that the Susan G. Komen Foundation, only 11% of the money that comes in actually goes towards the cause of breast cancer. So that's why a charity is extremely flawed way of donating. Oh. Nice one, Warren. But that feels like a 24/7, 365 type of experience. And yeah, they even do it. They even continue it. They don't even take days off during Black History Month or Juneteenth. And Rome put out another big banging tweet earlier today. And I just thought this ad was a major flex on the United States.
美国，这个全球最富裕的国家之一，仍面临着饥饿的困扰。在这个国家，尽管食品供应过剩，却仍有4900万美国人在挨饿。许多人无力负担健康的食物来提升生活品质。帮助美国，从现在开始。
Oh, that was near perfect, in my opinion. The only thing that would have made the flex in its fullest form was if you saw the major for example, if you saw the major corporate big brand names on the items, I understand that the reason why they didn't is because they didn't want to pay like the image and likeness rights for the commercial as well. But imagine this flex if you saw that this was ragu or spaghettios and Kraft mayonnaise in the commercial instead of these knockoff dollar store type brands. Then you got the whitest of a white kid as the one to pose in the photo as an example of someone who's gone hungry. That, my friends, is golden. And the exact type of irony that these other countries should be using on us. And I do hope that China figures out a way to give hungry people substantial help. Oh, wait, wrong one. I wonder if China will help rebuild the U.S. if it falls apart. I know a lot of us are hoping that uh, from one of these countries that has been victimized by the war, imperialism, and sanctions, that one of them will eventually step up to the U.S. and help the good people like us out. But I hope that Russia ups the ante and comes out with a commercial of their own to flex on the U.S. Good night, Warren. I'm about to end this shortly anyway, but have a good night and see you at the next secret midnight stream, or hopefully you have time to stop by the first year anniversary show after you get back on Tuesday. Thanks to all of you for coming out for the Rochford Files tonight with your host, Andrew Rochford. So, as I was mentioning, Tuesday is the first year anniversary of the Rochford Files. So, come on down. It'll be a nice, chill stream. If there's anything you want to ask me and the guest and steer the conversation in any way that you want to steer it, please do. I'm going to try, my goal is to get at least 3 other guests along with me for Tuesday night stream. So that'll be a fun one. Do a slight bit of reflecting, and thank you, Warren. And so that should be a pretty fun party and bullshit type stream. Thank you, Kelly. And I will preface it by that I doesn't really feel like a year to me though, because there were 3 months I had to take a hiatus due to my divorce, and then a few more weeks in mid-February that I struggled to put on out content due to stress from motion sickness. But now I'm getting into a more healthy place to get in a nice schedule. But I'll eventually have a year's worth of content in like August or October. But also don't forget Thursday's show is supposed to have Marcus Cage of the Political Matrix. Then I think I'll probably do the weekend show on Saturday this time around instead of Sunday, even though I have a slight preference towards Sunday. But I do think that I'll have other plans, so it'll likely be Saturday, sometime in the afternoon. As also, I know the loyal chatters are good about this, but please like and share the stream. Try to help spread the awareness. Oh, thank you, Kelly. I could. I'm going to show a photo real quick since you mentioned that. Give me a moment to pull that up. So, with that being said, here's the photo. Happy Mother's Day to my mom and all the other moms out there. And enjoy what's left of your Mother's Day. Goodbye and good night.